So you ready for a new name? All right, naming a company is really hard. It's a daunting task, but can be done. All right, let me walk you through how to do that. All right, first and foremost, you have a big decision to make. Do you want a name that sounds big and stodgy and trustworthy, like the American Telegraph and Telephone Company, or Distributed Energy Management, or Community Sourced Capital? Big established companies, even though they're startups, but they sound big and established. Or do you want a name that just sounds more fun? You know, Apple, Google, Bing. Right? Pick one or the other. Can't have both. Now, if you pick the latter, if you pick that fun, exciting name, which is a popular thing to do these days, well, then you have a second decision to make. Do you want it to be descriptive of your business or not? So Apple, Google, Bing, right? Amazon, they don't mean anything. Well, Apple has a meaning, but that is not the meaning behind the product that they produce, right? Amazon has nothing to do with rivers or jungles, despite all they do, right? But if you can also pick a name like Facebook, right, or Twitter, which has some descriptive power to what it is, right? The name itself is somewhat describing the type of company that it is, right? Snapchat or Instagram, or two more examples of that type of name. Right, so that's where you start. All right, next, take your core essence. If you haven't done that exercise, there's no use trying to find a name without it. So go back, do your core essence. Now, once you have all that put together, now what you need is a group of people. Naming a company is not something that is easily done with one person or two people in a room. The bigger the group, the better. The more diverse the group, the better. So go grab a bunch of friends, right? And then come back and start the video again. Great. Now you have a bunch of people in a room. You have some idea about what this company is about because you have the core essence and you know which direction you want to go. Right. Spread the people around in a circle. Have a few of them bring up their computers because we're going to need that. But what you're going to do to start is simply brainstorm. Right? And brainstorm, if you haven't done this before, is just throw out ideas. Nobody judges the ideas. Every single idea gets written down on a whiteboard or on a sheet of paper. Right? You want a lot of ideas thrown out. Should take 5 or 10 minutes until you're totally out of ideas. And then the people with the computers are going to go find you more ideas. So for example, we did this for a fledgling that was working in India. Right? They happened to be working on a project that had to do with human poop, and surprisingly, they didn't want the name to have anything to do with human poop. So we pulled up the list of the names of the biggest rivers in India. Wikipedia is awesome. Well, we knew the Ganges, right, and a few others, and that's not what we were looking for. We were looking for a nice Indian-sounding name that just felt good. And we wound up with a fifth or the sixth largest river in India, which is Tansa. Founder loved it. We did the next steps, which I'll get to in a minute. We were all done in about 20 minutes. We did this for another fledgling out of Kenya. We did the standard brainstorming. We were looking for a descriptive name. Nothing came to mind. So then we started looking at Swahili words, right? Foreign languages is another good way to do this. So we were looking at Swahili words, but we had a mix of Swahili speakers and English speakers in the room so that every time we had a word show up, we could either instantly dismiss it because it sounded wrong to the English speakers or it sounded terrible to the Swahili speakers. And we wound up in the end with a word where we just changed one letter. We just changed the first letter, and then everybody loved it. We were done. Again, we were done in about a half an hour. It's not always that easy, though. Sometimes these things take days. So don't expect to be done right now. Don't expect to be done in a half an hour. Expect to be done at the end of the week or next month even. Right? Just like everything else, you may have to iterate on these things. All right, more things to try. You can try finding really big words and then taking pieces of those words and using that. So there's two famous examples of that people don't even notice anymore. Intel, right? Intel is about intelligence. Or Cisco, right? Cisco, the company that does networking software. You know where their name is from? It's really simple. It's a short piece of San Francisco. All right, there's a few more things to try. One of them is called a portmanteau. Now that's a French word. It's actually two French words, or Be specific. It's part of two French words that have been squished together to create a new French word. You've seen this a lot in English. We do this a lot in English, like Brexit. British plus exit is Brexit, right? Or, Muppet. Did you know that Muppet was actually marionette and puppet squished together to create Muppet? Right? So you can create some great new words by taking some of the words on your brainstorming list and just start squishing them together, or just certain sounds that you like. Just take the beginning of one word and add the sound from the other one, or the sound plus the end of some other word that's on your list. All right, so take your time, go through the list that's in front of you, all the brainstorming ideas, all the biggest rivers and animals and whatnot that you've come up with from Wikipedia. Cross off the ones you really don't like, circle the ones you do like, start playing with portmanteaus and compound words and other ways to smush them together and make a short list. Don't fall in love with anything yet. Because you see, one of my favorite brands ever is Fledge. I think it's an awesome brand, but surprisingly, it was third on my list. Because here's the next thing you need to do. Take the people around the circle and assign them jobs, right? Especially the people with the computers, because one of those jobs is pulling up one of the domain companies and checking to see if you can have that domain. So my first choice for Fledge wasn't Fledge. I typed it in, and lo and behold, it was taken. Then the second test is even more important than whether or not you can get the .com or the .co.com or whatever domain name you want. The next test is to see what happens when you type it into Google. So I typed in the first name that I liked for my accelerator, and up pops a whole lot of stuff on Google. Thousands and thousands of interesting links, right? Links I would have to beat out to be number one on that list. So typed in the next name. Lo and behold, it's a page full of chicken incubators. I don't want my brand associated with chicken incubators. Sorry, African Chicken, but that's your brand, not my brand. My brand is about business and acceleration. And so I need some green space on Google. I need it so that when someone types in Fledge or your name, really nothing else of merit shows up, or nothing else at all shows up. So I typed in Fledge, third on my list, and what comes up but Wikipedia's article on the English word Fledge. Right, so that's what you need. You need something that rare that you can be the first result on Google a week after you launch your website, or a week after you rename your company, which is what happened to Fledge. A week later, we were on the first page. A month later, we were beating Wikipedia. So that you need to find. You need to find that blue ocean, that green space, that free area where you can create meaning of your brand, where people can find your brand. So make your short list, check to see if you can get the domain, check to see what happens on Google, and check to see if the Twitter handle is available. Check to see what happens on Facebook and YouTube and the rest of the social media scene, because you're going to want those too. Doesn't matter whether or not your company is targeting the general public. It doesn't matter if you expect that your customers are going to find you on Twitter. You still need to have a Twitter handle, because I'll bet you're going to be raising some money, which means the investors need to find your company. And in order for them to find and believe you are a reasonable company, guess what? You have to have a website. You have to have at least a Twitter or Facebook page. You have to look like an established company. Right? And that's about it. You go through this process, brainstorm, come up with some names, figure out some that you like, and then check to see if they're truly available for you to use. And yes, you do also need to check the trademarks, right? So legally, do you have the right to use that name? Is anyone else using it both in your country, any other country you expect to run in, and globally, right? Those are all things you should check too. But that is also why you should check on Google, because they should be able to find this for you, right? If no one is truly using the name, it's not going to show up on Google. When you're all done with that, you're going to have a name that hopefully you really like. And if you do, sleep on it. Sometimes people get really excited by this process. They think they found the best name ever. You got to sleep on it to see if it's still your favorite name the next day. After that, you need to test it with your team, right? You need to go back out to your team, maybe some potential customers or some real customers, right? And find out what they think. Is that a name that they like? Is that a name that they love? Is that a name that they're just going to live with? Right? When you've gone through all of that, hopefully you found something that you actually do really love. If not, go grab a different group of people and go start from the beginning and try again. Sometimes this process lasts a really long time. Sometimes it's just really hard to find that perfect name that you really love. But the only way to do it, the only way to succeed is to try and try again. So have fun with it.